Hey everybody, welcome to another one of my deck techs. This is for my favorite deck I've ever played actually. I mean maybe not the modern version, but I played this a lot in standard and extended when it was in play. And of course this is the red-green Valakut ramp deck. So I guess any deck that plays red is going to play 4 of this card. Lightning Bolt just does 3 damage to a creature or player. Pretty simple here. It's just the best option, 1 mana. So Lightning Bolt's pretty self-explanatory. And I guess the next thing I want to talk about in this deck is the ramp package, which is all of this. I mean, it's a full quarter of the deck itself. And you're playing a wide variety, and you can have, I mean, there are different choices that you can make. Like, instead of playing Colony Heart Expedition or Explorer, you could, like, mix in, Farseek or something. There are a lot of options here. But I personally prefer Explore and Colony Heart, for reasons I'll get into in the gameplay videos that I'll record later here. But basically, Colony Heart lets you get to 7 lands by turn 4, which you have to have multiple ramp spells, like multiple explorers into lands, in order for that to happen. Otherwise, so for instance, you could go like land and then search for tomorrow, and then turn 2 you play land, play Colony Heart Expedition. And then turn 3 you get a fetch land or another ramp spell, and then you have seven lands on turn 4, which is a crucial number that we'll talk about later with Scape Shift. All right, so I guess I'll kind of go over each option here. Search for Tomorrow is just it's basically a 1 mana delayed rampant growth. It's excellent. It really should be in this slot, but I just kind of put it there. You can cast it for 3, but usually it's being suspended for 1. Almost invariably. If this is in your opening hand, you should always suspend it for 1. Sakura Tribe Elder is basically rampant growth on a stick. It's a great card. It can block, save you some life, and then get you a land. It's good. Pretty simple. And then, of course, we already talked about Colony Heart Expedition. Lets you pull 2 basic lands. It's really good. And then followed up by Explore. Lets you play an additional land, and you get to draw a card. So pretty self-explanatory there. Now, I guess before I go any further, I'm going to take a look at the lands here. So you're playing a total of 7, I guess, taigas, lands that are both mountains and forest. So you have 4 Cinderglades and 3 Stomping Ground. The reason we're playing 4 Cinderglade is because we don't want to take as much damage as we would if we had 4 Stomping Grounds. And we run so many basic lands and so many basic land tutors that playing 4 Cinderglade is right here. So we're playing 7 taigas, 3 forests, and I believe 6 mountains here. You have to keep your mountain count high so that you can trigger Valakut. If you don't have, quite a few mountains in the deck, you're going to end up running out of gas and not being able to kill them with Valakut / Scape Shift and or Primeval Titan. Follow that up with, I guess we'll talk about Valakut. Valakut is, it's a great card. I love this card. It basically says if you have 5 mountains in play and Valakut in play, if you play another mountain, Valakut deals 3 damage to something. Now, there's a little trick with this. If those 6 mountains, the 5 and then the 1 that you play, if they all enter simultaneously, each one of them triggers Valakut. That means it triggers 6 times. So that's why you need 7 lands in order for Scape Shift to function, because you need to be able to tutor up a Valakut and then 6 mountains on top of that, and you can deal 18 damage, which is more than enough damage to kill most decks in the format, because a lot of decks run fetches and they take damage here and there. So, and then follow it up with 7 fetch lands, help, thin the deck and pull out the lands we need. Any of these fetch lands can search the taigas, and any of them can search for forest, which I think is most important, especially since this meta is so Blood Moon heavy. It's really important to tutor up a forest on occasion. So, all right. Summoner's Pact is an interesting card. It costs 0 mana the turn you play it. It lets you tutor a green creature, and we run a few different green creatures. We run Sakura Tribe Elder, so it can find basically a rampant growth. We run Courser of Kruphix, which lets us, it gets a little card advantage and lets us play lands off the top of our library, and also gains us some life, so on occasion you'll want to tutor for it. But the card that you're almost always getting is going to be Primeval Titan. It's basically just 2 extra copies of Primeval Titan. If we could run something like Green Sun Zenith in this spot, we would, but unfortunately we can't, so we're stuck running Summoner's Pact. Primeval Titan is one of the 2 real win cons of the deck. It basically, when it comes into play or attacks, you get to pull 2 of any lands, I guess, from your library and put them directly into play. So once you hit 6 mana, you're going to want at least 4 mountains, and then you're going to pull 2 Valakuts. So the reason you want at least 4 mountains when you play Primeval Titan is that because when it next attacks, if you get 2 mountains, both of those mountains will simultaneously trigger on each of the Valakuts. And that means that anytime Primeval Titan attacks and fetches out 2 lands, you'll be doing 12 damage divided, in chunks of 3 as you choose, plus the damage of Primeval Titan's attack. So it's important to, if you're playing Primeval Titan, to get at least 4 mountains. Now, if you're going for the Scapeshift win, which I kind of already outlined before, you get to 7 lands, then you play Scapeshift, sacrifice all your lands, and put Valakut and then 6 mountains in play. If you're going that way, then you're probably going to want to be tutoring up forests so you can keep your mountain count high in your library so you can tutor them out. So, like, for instance, if you have a Scapeshift in hand, but you don't have a Primeval Titan, you're going to want to fetch a lot of forests and kind of make sure you keep the basic mountains in your library so that you can actually have gas for later in the game. And, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the main board, other than 2 Anger of the Gods. This is just to kind of keep the aggressive decks at bay. They're a necessary evil, unfortunately. And a lot of the aggressive decks run creatures that have 3 toughness. So it's important to be able to exile 3 toughness creatures. Also pretty good against Dredge because it hits most of their guys and exiles them. So yeah, Anger of the Gods is a solid card in a lot of matchups. Now for the sideboard here, there's 3 relics. This is just a good card against a lot of decks. Storm, Dredge, the Cycle Cascade deck. I don't know. There are a ton of applications. I even bring it in against black-green decks that run Tarmogoyf a lot of the time. I run 1 or 2 against them, and I don't know. It just has a lot of utility. Also, kind of prevents us from being surgical when it's in play because you can just leave it untapped, and if they try to surgical your guy, you exile whatever in your graveyard is being targeted by surgical extraction. Obstinate Baloth is a pretty good card against black-green discard decks and aggressive decks. Basically just a big body that gains you 4 life, and if your opponent makes you discard it, then it just comes into play, and you get the come into play trigger, so it's good. Crimson Grip and Nature's Claim, enchantment artifact removal, obviously very important when there are so many Blood Moons, because it's tough for us to win with a Blood Moon in play, so we got to get rid of those. Crimson Grip is it's very good against the Ad Nauseam deck, because if they try to go off not with Angel's Grace but with Phyrexian Unlife, then this can actually just win. After their Ad Nauseam resolves, you just cast Crimson Grip on their Phyrexian Unlife and they'll die because they took like 50 damage or something. And they can't respond to it because it has split second. That's the reason why. If you play Nature's Claim, they'll be able to simply just Angel's Grace it. So it's important to have like 1 Crimson Grip, I think. That's why I run it at least. Chandra Torch of Defiance is kind of it's like an alternate win con. There's some some decks will like Ghost Quarter and then surgical your Valakuts, or they'll take out your Primeval Titans, or something. Like often your win options are limited by the cards that your opponent is playing. So I bring in Chandra as sort of a card advantage engine and something that can, if it goes ultimate, it can win the game. So yeah, Chandra's great. Crumble to Dust is for mirror match and also for any Tron decks. It it just kind of neuters a Tron deck by taking out their big mana producers. So yeah, it's a pretty self-explanatory card, but it's great. Good utility card. One Sudden Shock. This is a weird card, but it's for Infect and Cheerios, and there are a few other decks that run like 2 toughness dudes that you need to kill through counters. So that's what Sudden Shock is for. And then Ancient Grudge for Affinity, and there are a few other decks I bring it in against, like the Ghoul Colors Bell deck, and maybe there are a few other places, but yeah, Ancient Grudge is the house. So I guess this is Red Green Valakut. Please let me know in the comments section of the video if you have any questions about it. I've played this deck for a long time, and it actually won me a Pro Tour invite to Nagoya in 2011. So this deck is great. Cheers. Thank you.